everybody, welcome to the Patriot show. I'm your host, Anthony Stephen Malone, the Rogue Warrior. I've got a very special friend I'm going to introduce this morning. His name is Chris Thrall. Hello, Chris, introduce yourself.
Anth, how are you?
I'm good, mate, I'm good.
I'm Chris Thrall.
The man and the legend.
Well, a legend in my own lifetime, is it? Or legend in my own mind, I think they say.
Exactly, mate. You're a very humble man, but you've done a lot, and you're an inspiration to a lot of people. Chris is he's a veteran, a former Royal Marine Commando. He's wore the uniform, he's served our country, and he's also done a lot of other interesting things. So, Chris, please tell me a bit about yourself.
Okay, so quick synopsis. Joined the Marines when I was 18. Had some enlightening experiences, you could say. Went on active service in the Northern Ireland conflict. Conducted Arctic warfare and survival training up in the north of Norway. And I was very fortunate to spend just over a year as part of a 12-man high security detachment on board an aircraft carrier, where we got to sail a bit around the world, end up in some exotic locations that I could only have ever dreamt of as a child. Sailed to Barbados, believe it or not, which was just a dream deployment. And we were also the first ship in the Royal Navy to ever have women on board. And to say that was I'm not sure from a tactical point of view how good it was. I've got to be careful what I say here, but you know, we had some sort of 7.5 stone wrens that were in the fire parties and the emergency parties and all the stuff you do on ship. And I did used to think, my God, some of these chief petty officers are like 18 stone. And if we ever did get an exocet come through the side of the ship and they had to carry these big fat fellas up, you know, four decks to get them in a life raft, it just conjured up some interesting questions. But we didn't really think too much about that. We just enjoyed a certain party atmosphere, you could say, as we were traveling to the tropics.
Exactly, mate. Oh, yeah.
I left the Marines. I left because I'd started a business in my spare time. It was a network marketing business called Quorum International. And without boring your listeners with the details, it really took off in Hong Kong. And I had the biggest network for this company in Hong Kong, and also this was just the start of the Asia Pacific expansion of the company. So not blowing my own trumpet, because it's all just pretty irrelevant, Anth, to be honest, but I was kind of heralded as the next, what they call diamond in the company. Diamond was the top of the compensation plan. You know, you thought of these guys as the multi-millionaires, you know, or at least millionaires. And I was, you know, well on target for that. But by the time I put my 18 months notice in the Marines and gone out to Hong Kong, the $100,000 we turned over 1 month, which I got a bonus check for £2,600 for. This was on top of my, you know, £1,000 I was getting from the military. We're talking 25 years ago now. It had petered down to nothing. That the company stopped supplying really good products, and a network marketing organization relies on having quality products that not just you can sell as distributors, but also as people in your network can use in their daily lives. So cut a long story short, had we been networking toothpaste, instead of high-tech consumer electronic products, then we'd have been a lot more successful, because everybody uses toothpaste, right? So even if you're not selling it, you as a distributor can use it, and those 1,000 people that I had in my network could have used it, and then you make 5% of that turnover, right? So that's just a brief explanation of how this network marketing operation failed, and it left me in Hong Kong, now no longer a member of the Royal Marines elite, now no longer getting a secure payment in my bank every month, and all my health care taken care of, and you know, military is quite a simple system. So long as you say yes sir, even when you don't really mean it, you're going to get paid, right?
Yeah.
So I'd lost all that, and in addition I was about £7,000 in debt, having tried to, you know, maintain my failing business for this last 18 months. And it was an interesting place to be, Anth. You know, I recognized that in myself, so in my psyche, something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And my way out of that at the time was I you know, smoked a bit of weed. I've been to, you know, lots of parties before on what was called the dance scene. So, you know, dancing all night in nightclubs, and popped a couple of ecstasy pills and this sort of stuff. So what I'm trying to say is I wasn't like, you know, naive to the drug world, but in Hong Kong, whilst working in an incredibly boring company, which was almost the anti of the excitement and kudos you experience in the Marines, very, very boring. Very like, what am I doing sat here? I'm just writing letters all day. I mean, that was the kind of limit of my horizon. Working, I think we had to rock up to work at 7 in the morning, and we couldn't leave until 8 at night. And, you know, you get to thinking, oh my God, where is my life going? How am I going to earn some money? What am I going to do? And in that moment, somebody introduced me to a drug called crystal methamphetamine. And I had a little, what we call a toke of it, just a tiny little toke, and went back to my desk in the office. This was a colleague of mine, Neil Diamond, who was, interestingly, he was a paranoid schizophrenic. And all of us odd bod expats, or guilo as they're called in Hong Kong terms, which mean ghost men, we're all in this odd job working for this crazy Chinese boss who was just incredibly eccentric, following all these almost like authoritarian rules that he had, like the bloody 12-hour days or 13-hour days, whatever it was, which incidentally wasn't to do like loads of business. It was so when we went home at night, it was too late to start a business of our own and be doing trade with his clients, because we were marketing DRAM, which are the computer memory chips. So this was back when personal computers first came on the market, and it was all about what processor you had, how much memory you had, right? And this crazy old eccentric boss who'd made his money in the digital watch market back in the 70s, when that kicked off, had transferred to this product called memory chips, DRAM, and they sold like bloody hotcakes. It was a real, almost like trading on the stock exchange, the value of these things. I mean, they actually had gold in them. The architecture inside this little microchip was gold, and they traded like gold. And it was a fascinating thing to get into. But us Guilos, we couldn't sell anything because we didn't really speak Cantonese. I spoke more than most, but we didn't really know how to pick up this phone and then this phone and trade in Korea and Taiwan and Thailand and Europe and the Americas, you know. So in this boring job, this guy Neil Diamond went, Chris, come and have a smoke of this when we're in the toilet one day. And I was like, okay. So what is it? He said, it's called ice, right? Which is the street name for crystal meth. And I said, isn't that the stuff that makes people go mental? And he went, yeah. I said, I'm in. And it won't surprise your listeners to hear, Anth, that a month later, if not 2-3 months, I was chronically addicted to this stuff. It was the ultimate stress reducer for me. It made me leave, I guess, the demons of quite a damaged childhood behind, and made me feel like the guy that I wanted. I felt cool, calm, like, not macho isn't the right word, but you know, I'm like a go-getter, as you see from my history. I like to get out. I like adventure sports. I like doing stupid things. I like being the guy that, oh, did you see he's just, you know, I like to live life to the maximum, right? And this was the chemical for me. It was just, I thought, right, I want to live every single day of my life smoking this stuff. It was just, you know, I'm careful not to sound like I'm trying to sell it here. I'm absolutely not. I'm just saying this is my life, folks. You know, this is what I did.
It's what you went through. It's important.
Yeah, I don't expect anyone else to follow my lead. I'm just, as I said to you at the beginning of the podcast, I'm happy with my life. And if you meet my son, who's just a gift from freaking Mother Nature, he's the best kid in the world, you'll understand why I'm so glad I've lived my life this way, because now I've got him. It's led me to that point, and he's everything to me, right? But this didn't mean that at the time I ended up in Wanchai, which people might remember from the film or the book, The Legend of Susie Wong, which is the gangland nightclub red light district in Hong Kong. They don't actually have like red light district, but it's lots of nightclubs.
Yeah.
Some sleazier than others, some the old topless ones, most of them packed with Filipino working girls looking to, you know, make a buck out the American sailors or the tourists. And I ended up living in a crummy old tenement building on the top floor. You wouldn't catch another like white person living there, Westerner living there. It was that crazy, but I loved this old. Didn't even have glass in the windows on the hallways, right? It did in the flat, but it just had ancient ironwork, and it was just. Anybody who's grown up with Bruce Lee will know what I mean when I say I was there living the Bruce Lee, you know, and I got more into living that Bruce Lee life because I took a job in a nightclub. Unknowingly, it was offered to me by a guy called Dilo, which in gangster speak, it means big brother. And he was a gang leader for this element of the local triad who ran Wanchai. They're called the 14K, right? That's the name of the triad. There's several triad organizations in Hong Kong, 14K, Woshing Wo, Golden Path, I think there's many, right? But in Wanchai, it's run by the 14K. So unwittingly, Anth, I'd got myself a job as a nightclub doorman in a club run by the 14K. At the same time that I'm chronically addicted to crystal meth, and I'm starting to seriously lose my mental health in terms of anxiety, bit of paranoia. I'm phasing in and out of something called clinical psychosis, which is where your reality in your head starts to distort from the real reality, right? So I'm in there, and things just got bizarre, mate, because the triads is a conspiracy, right? You know, these are guys that conspire against the government to do their shenanigans, whether it's drug importation and selling, cheating the stock market, protection rackets on the local businesses. You know, if you don't pay us this, you're not protected, and we suggest you let us protect you, right? Prostitution, obviously, counterfeiting, robbing jewelry stores. One of my fellow doormen, Daisu, this 6'3" guy, was an assassin, which sounds really like, whoa, bloody Bruce Lee film, but no, he genuinely like used to disappear every few days, or sorry, disappear every now and again for a few days. And I was told that they smuggled him onto mainland China to go and do a hit on someone. You know, he's a paid assassin. The other guy that I worked with, Chuchai, was this cherubic looking chubby triad, and he was introduced to me as a street fighter. And I remember the guy saying, he don't look much, but he'll pick up anything in a fight if he thinks he can smash an enemy over the head with it, right? Which I later got to see. So just to clarify, Anth, just so there's no I was never a triad. I've never claimed to be a triad. That's not my story. My story is a lost young man, joined the Marines to make a go of my life, and it really helped me. Left thinking, wow, I've got the $1 million, you know, I'm going to get the Porsche, I'm going to get the big house. I had a mobile phone, mate, when I was 23. You know, everyone was like, what's that? It's a phone. What? A phone? Yeah, you know, back then, the first mobile phones, they were these big, they called them bricks, right? This is brick thing.
Like that, weren't it?
Yeah, they sat on the center console of your car, which back then would have been a Rover, because they were the, you know, the car to have. And literally you picked up a handset like a Bakelite old phone. And if you were ultra rich, because these things were just so ridiculously expensive, you had one of these phones, right? I had the first one when it went to mobile, right? I can't remember if it was Nokia or no, I think it was Motorola back then, right? It wasn't a brick, but it was like basically holding something like this with a big plastic aerial, and we needed it. You know, me and my business partner, we were doing business in the Netherlands. We had this network in England, although it never really sort of produced much. And then, of course, we had this massive business in Hong Kong. So, yes, going back to what I'm saying, my story is about a lost young man that you'd think leaving an elite military force would just go on and do, you know, life would be easy for him, right? But no, I'm having for the first time in my life to really face my demons and the insecurities that we all have, but possibly when you come from a damaged childhood, the trauma is in there that's a bit more, and it's just pure happenstance that when I was homeless, I'd hop my first Rolex watch to get this flat, and my friends was just starting to desert me, and you know, when you become a bit of a mad person, it's almost like a bit understandable.
Yeah.
And these triads gave me a job, mate, and that was all it was. I was just working in a nightclub. Could have been any. I worked in 3 nightclubs by that point, so it wasn't like it was unfamiliar to me. But there I am, albeit, like I say, I'm not a triad, but I've suddenly got a job with these hard as nails Cantonese street fighters who operate below the radar of the law. They don't give up, you know.
Yeah.
Hard nuts, sprawling dragon tattoos, right? And moreover, mate, under Confucius, so Confucius's philosophy which governs China, there's all these quirky little rules. So worker respects boss. In return, boss must provide for worker, right? That's just one of them. So on my one of my first nights in the club, in fact, I'll tell you, a very bizarre incident happened. I'm sat there thinking I'm a doorman, right? Turns out, excuse me.
Aye.
Turns out I wasn't so much meant to be a doorman. I was more a go-between Eastern face, which is an incredibly important concept in Asia, and Western drunken expat ignorance, right?
Yeah.
So give you a little scenario. We'd often I'd get a guy come up to me, grabbing me, mate, that fucker there, he's trying to make me pay $10 for a water, right? Some drunken guy in his business suit who's come out of the office and he's got slaughtered, right, with his Hooray Henry mates, doesn't realize that guy there that he's, verbally abusing is a triad big brother. He's a Dilo. He's the most important man in this area, and you don't make him lose face by being rude to him, right?
Yeah.
And my job more was to get these guys to go, mate, calm the fuck down. Have a look around you. Do you see that guy there? That one there? That chap there? And you could spot the triads out, because a bit like in the military where you're off duty, you wear a certain kind of civilian uniform. So back in the day, it was your Helly Hansen fleece, your Ocean Pacific t-shirt, your faded denim jeans, and your chucker boots, right?
Yeah.
Desert boots, right? You can spot a military person a mile away, can't you? It was the same with the triads. They all wore this kind of like white shell suit. It was back when those white England shell suit tops everybody wore, and they'd have lots of gold jewelry. They all wore trainers. They'd have their flashy mobile phone. The rest of us just had pagers, because phone calls were free in Hong Kong, so all of us Westerners just had pagers. And if someone paid you, you went to the nearest phone in any restaurant or business, you just pick it up for free. It was no big deal, and the phone call was free. So we all had pagers. But these triads, they get them knocked off Marlborough or fake Marlborough faked in China and all this kind of stuff. And they'd be like, they wouldn't say anything. They just shove 2 packs of Marlborough across the lectern in the club, where you take the entrance money. They go, and this is it. They're looking after me, The boss give me 500 Hong, or was it 500 Hong? I can't remember, but he just give me. He went. You got new flat, no furniture, right? Everyone. They all talk, mate. They all talk, right? So people know stuff about you. You don't even know who this person is, but they'll come up and go, Chris, so your flat is, I'm not good at maths, but let's just say 500 square feet, right? And it sounds weird, but in Hong Kong, because space is so premium, how big your flat is like how good a person you are, right? It's your status, right? Yeah. And someone had obviously told the triad boss that Chris has moved into a new flat. It's a crummy area of town, no furniture in it, and the boss just went, he never would like look at you, Anth, right? Just look and go. And when he did, you followed him, right? He's a Dilo big brother. He just went to the till, took out, I don't know if it's like, say, 500 quid, and just went, right? I don't have to pay that back, nothing. It's Confucius, see? Boss looks after worker, in turn, worker respect boss. But on this, one of the first nights in the club, there were 2 girls, right? The boss, the owner of the club, right? It was a guy called, I'm going to call him Peter, and a Dilo was sat drinking, and they had 2 Thai girls that had been sent from another club to, like, let's just call it escort them for the evening, be the girl on their arm, right? This is how it's done in the red light district, it's all gangster, it's all this kind of stuff. So anyway, these 2 Thai girls got up to go to the bar, and I thought, just getting a drink, right? One of them, bang, just drops on the floor, and her friend just jumps down on her and just starts shaking her, right? I'm there thinking, blooming immature working girls, they were the Asian girls were, you know, they were a bit playful, and I thought they're just showing off in front of their important dates, right? I should say the owner of the club, Peter, he's not gangster, he's not triad, right? He's just a businessman. He has to pay these guys to run his club. It's just the way it works, right? It's the same in Soho, same in Istanbul. You know, you're a club owner, but you have to pay the gangsters to run it, right? And so this girl smacks on the deck. I think that it's horseplay. They're mucking around. And then when I looked at the girl, she's going blue. So immediately I think, drug overdose. So I jumped off my bar stool, run over, pushed the girl out the way, and I just trying to take her pulse, right? No, I'm trying to see if she's breathing. And I couldn't see that she was breathing. So I put my tongue like right next to her mouth, and I could just sense like a tiny breath. And I took her pulse, and it was something like 180. It was fucking ridiculous. So I'm thinking, she's had a crystal meth overdose, right? You can take so much of it. It's unlikely you'll die, but it can put you into this like coma, right? So I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, right. I grabbed her handbag, I opened it up, and I'm looking to see, you know, what drugs are in there, so I can tell the ambulance person what she's done, and hopefully, you know, save this little angel's life, right? When I looked up, nobody in the club, which was mainly Chinese at that point in the evening, were helping me. Worse still, they're all just staring like that, like daggers at me. I don't know why, mate. I don't know if it's a superstition in Asia around death. I don't know if it's like, it could have been a range of things. So the Dilo, the big brother, comes over from the table, and I just see his feet appear, and I looked up, and he says, "Throw her in an alleyway," right? I'm like, the alleyways in Hong Kong, it's where you chuck all the rubbish out the back. So you got the skips there for all the bottles and the cans and all well, it's mainly bottles in Hong Kong, right? Infested with rats, just like a Bruce Lee movie. I used to bloody love going down the alleyways. I thought I was like some kung fu ninja at night, going home at, you know, might be 4 a.m, going down the alleyways. I was in my element, mate, and I was off my head most of the time. But anyway, I'm like, throw her in the alleyway. Are you fucking joking? I ain't doing that. You know, I'm English, Anne. Oh no, I'm British. What do we do if someone is having a whoopsie? You know, we put a jacket round them. We make sure they're breathing. We put them in the recovery position. We call a freaking ambulance, and then we stay with them until the ambulance comes. That's just what we do as British people, right? Yeah. Nah, not in Hong Kong, right? Not. And to add some understanding to this, what it is drugs is taboo in Hong Kong. I mean, they're pretty much taboo in lots of places around the world, but in Hong Kong, there's this specific psychology. A lot of it goes to Confucius. A lot of it goes to the Anglo-Sino history. So the Anglo-Chinese history of Hong Kong, how East came to meet West, and they like made a freaking go of it through the old Chinese Hongs, the trading companies. The Scottish were massive in there, right? They got this unique blend of culture, but it's almost like separate at times. And this was one of those cases where I didn't know you can do drugs in Hong Kong, right? No problem, but you've got to have made your fortune, right? Yeah. If you've made your fortune, the golden, shining, red fortune, right? These are colors that are really important in Cantonese, Chinese culture. Gold means successful. Red means successful. You call your business Happy, Lucky Fortune Company, right? This is the psychology, right? You can take as much drugs as you like, but you've got to have made your fortune first, because if you don't, right, you're a loser, right? That black and white, right? If you're doing party stuff like drugs and you haven't made your million, you are a loser, right? So there's that. Then there's the fact that the Dilo is with a working girl, and she's collapsed in his club, right? To him, he just wants the problem out there. That's why he's saying throw her in the alleyway. He don't want to lose face and be the, that Dilo had a girl die in his club, right? So anyway, I ignored him, Anth, right? Because I'm naive. In hindsight, what I should have done is gone, yes, boss, put the girl over my shoulder, run out and jumped in a taxi with her and gone to the hospital, right? But I'm their naive Englishman going, I've got to save this girl's life. And I'm, checking her pulse and all this stuff. English guy come over, went, you all right, mate? Do you need a hand? He's like I think he was like the only expat in the club at the time. And I said, yes, mate. Can you nip to the 7-Eleven and call an ambulance, right? 7-Eleven being the corner shop. And he went, yeah, right. And I just said, look around you, right? And he looked up and he saw all these faces just looking daggers at us, right? Again, I'm not even really sure why I'm, just that this is not a good situation, right? And no one. And he went, yeah, I see what you mean, bud. And he disappeared off. And as I turned, I saw him go up the steps of the club, and he went like that. He got it, he went and called an ambulance. In the meantime, I'm like, a Filipina bar girl walked by. She had a parka with a furry hood like we used to wear as kids, right? And I'm like, love, give us your jacket. She went, and fucking run out the club, right?
No.
I'm guessing she either doesn't want a jacket on a girl who could be dead, or to that Filipina, that jacket is worth like $20 freaking or 20 quid. She ain't gonna lose it. She's all her money goes back to feed her family in the Philippines, right? Something like this. Anyway, it was just adding to the bizarreness of the situation. Daisu, the 6'3" assassin, I'm like, Daisu, give me a jacket. She's going to die. And he went into the back room. He come back with a load of cleaning rags and went, and chucked them on. I'm like, oh, right. Okay. Anyway, cut long story short, the ambulance crew came and I said, listen, I think she's overdosed on amphetamine, right? I wasn't trying to be a hypocrite. I wasn't trying to get the girl in trouble. I'm trying to save her life. I'm high on amphetamine, right? Anyway, cut a long story short, in the morning, one of the barmen come over, so a young triad, and went, Chris, you want to come to breakfast with us, right? To me, it's like, wow, the family are inviting me for breakfast, they're treating me as one of their own, and it was a big, like, massive ego boost, right? So we're walking through Wanchai. It's like a scene from Reservoir Dogs, right? We're all walking 8 abreast on the pavement. All the pedestrians going to work in the morning are just like moving out of our way, because this is the 14K, right? And I sidled up to the Dilo and I said, Paul, the girl last night, and again, just looking dead ahead, he goes, mm-hmm. I said, I did the wrong thing, right? He went, mm-hmm. I said, oh, I'm sorry. He went like that, and I knew that was it. We never had to speak about that again, right? But that's just one bizarre incident. There were many others, and too many. I mean, if anyone is interested, my book, Eating Smoke, this isn't a punt, it's just if people are interested, that's my book, Eating Smoke, One Man's Descent into Crystal Meth Psychosis in Hong Kong's Triad Heartland. It's all in there, and it's a fascinating read.
It's interesting. I recommend that to anybody who wants to know anything about the triads and the culture out there.
Yes, and moreover, mental health and addiction and psychosis it's all in there, right? I don't try and explain it. I just tell you what happened, right? Like the time I stared at 8 cats for 6 hours thinking they were puppets, right? Don't ask. So,
Chris, you've been through an extraordinary journey there. From all your experience, because you're a veteran as well, a lot of veterans are going through a hard time at the moment, both in the UK and the United States as well. Have you got a message for them?
Yes. Hardship's only temporary. Feelings, thoughts are only temporary. The struggle most people have is we all grow up living in what I call a matrix, right? It's basically a life controlled by the sociopathic elite that have controlled the whole show for the last 8,000 years since they invented the money system, which is just a system of slavery and debt, right? They own you from birth. You grow up, you watch your mainstream media, you believe it, you think this is life. The BBC are telling, be scared of this week. Oh, this week, this you've got to be scared of. Oh, this week, you're all going to be killed in your beds by this threat, right? And what happens is we leave the military, we're very much indoctrinated into that matrix, especially, you know, we used to follow in orders and not questioning it and not really knowing much about life, ourselves, spirituality, how to be happy, what are the basic ingredients, you know, simple things like every day, Anth, I smile at the sun, right?
Yeah.
Gratitude. I'll say, Mother Nature, thank you so much for this life. It's not always easy, but you know what? I wouldn't freaking change it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I'm so glad you've given me this opportunity, right? Little things like that. And so I'd say to anyone struggling, you know, the reason you're struggling is you're applying the old school matrix values to your life. You're applying the sociopaths rules who don't care about you. You're aspiring to like having the Mercedes in the drive and the Rolex and the you know, the 2.5 and all that's bullshit. Unless you can sit anywhere at any given time in your 24-hour day and go, do you know what? Meditate. I'm so lucky to have this life. The universe doesn't care. It loves all of you equally, right? You are all an equal part of this universe. The problem comes in is because you've been brainwashed by the sociopaths all your life, you're playing by their rules and trying to make sense of your life in their rules, right? Oh, this guy doesn't like me, and oh, I haven't got this, and I'm overdrawn. Oh, how am I going to pay the bill? It's just irrelevant. Don't stress it.
Yeah.
So my advice is turn off your mainstream media. This is the channel the sociopaths use to control your life and make you miserable. They want you to be miserable because miserable people go out and buy shit thinking it's going to make them happy. And these sociopaths, they control all the corporations. They control all the banks. They want you to go out and borrow money to the max. And all the time you're doing that shit, you're not educating yourself about how brilliant the world really is, right? So to veterans that are struggling, you are trained to be a warrior. Start being it. Start being a warrior for you. Forget those old rules. They don't work, right? They ended me up so mentally unwell that I was sticking needles in my arms 12 times a day. I was crawling across a cable between skyscrapers because I was that unwell. I thought the Commando crawl they taught us at Lympstone was to go across this cable between two skyscrapers. That this is all of that old school matrix laws had allowed me to descend into this utter freaking chaos and madness where nothing made sense. And I was lucky. It was at that point I had my moment of enlightenment, my epiphany, and I thought, I get it. I get it. Those old school rules and values don't work.
Yeah.
I've got to start working it out for myself. And it's going to start with, do I want this life or not? Yes. Because lots of my mates are dead. You know, one lad killed in the second week of Northern Ireland. We had two lads killed in Thailand when they got on the roof of the train they were on. It went through a tunnel and they got, killed in a horrible way. mate of mine I was on rear party with at 42 Commando, running away from the police on a drunken, silly lads night out, jumped off a wall and landed on a spike, right? He's gone. One lad in training killed in a car. Lads in Norway, carbon monoxide poisoning by sleeping in their vehicles with the engine on. Other lads gone off the side of a cliff in a BV and fallen down a Norwegian, you know, lots of lads, Anth, ain't here now to live this wonderful life. And I will always be grateful for mine, because I will live it for them, you know. Just fiddling with my internet here, mate, saying I've got a bad connection.
Chris, it's your story is incredible.
Yes, to try to keep it short and simple.
Yep. We'll have to get you back on the show. We're definitely going to have to do a part 2, mate, because I am so interested, and I know my viewers.
So to veterans, veterans, keep smiling.
Right, Chris, I think I've lost you with a bad internet connection there. We will get back to you on part 2. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for watching the Patriot Show. Please watch our sponsors videos at the end of this. There's some really good sponsors videos that are all veteran companies. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.